So, Stuart, the industry's obviously undergoing a radical change at the moment. From your point of view as someone working at the coalface, has there been a need for change?
Yeah, Phil, I think there has been a need for change from some years ago. When I started the skydiving business in 1991, we were just operating on a van with parachutes and jumping into parks. It's grown a lot. It's turned into a major tourism industry now. And I think there certainly was a need for certification in terms of the aircraft that we go up and down in. And but I think at this stage it's probably gone a little far, really.
Okay, we'll get to that in just a moment. Talk to us about the build-up and what's taken place here over the past few months, because things have happened quite quickly, haven't they?
Yeah. Well, this Part 115 rule that's come into effect today really was started being talked about in the mid-90s, and there was a lot of discussion with various politicians and the CAA over many years, but it was really only last year, with the Prime Minister becoming the Minister of Tourism, well actually that was the year before, but it was really last year that the Minister of Transport signed the rule off, and he did that pretty much around the time of the Rena disaster actually, and I think it came as a bit of a surprise to CAA as well as all the aviation operators. But in effect what happened was he signed that rule off, making it law on the 1st of November, and within that law it gave some sectors of the aviation industry only 6 months to comply, and parachuting was one of those areas that had 6 months to comply.
Okay. And gaining the compliance, what's that process been meant for you?
Oh, it's huge. It's huge. It's health and safety programs, it's management systems, it's safety programs. In order to get the certificate, we had to completely review our operations manuals and rewrite our what they term an exposition. Because one of the little fishhooks in the new law is that the CAA have determined that a tandem parachute is now an aircraft under their rules, and what that means to us as a parachuting business is that now, because I have 10 tandem parachutes, we become a 11 aircraft business. That makes us a large operator in the CAA's eyes, and that means a completely different management structure than a small operator. So we have to have a CEO, maintenance controllers, quality assurance controllers, various different senior people who have to be approved by the CEO. And the trick is that all of those people can't be the same people. So I can't be a one-man band effectively. I have to have key people in different roles.
Have you had to hire extra staff as a result of this?
When the rule was signed, I made a conscious decision to embrace the change and get on and try and achieve the certification by the final date, which was today. And I employed a safety and compliance guy who I've worked with at different levels for various years, and he and I did a solid 4 months of rewriting manuals, implementing new procedures, and developing programs to comply with the law.
So obviously you've been pretty proactive in regard to the change. Have other operators around the country, to your knowledge, done the same?
Well, look, the rule came into effect today. My understanding was that yesterday there are only 2 skydive operators in New Zealand that actually have achieved certification in time. So, yeah, I have been proactive. Excuse me. I did take it seriously, and I think some of the other operators have probably dropped the ball a little bit. But also, to be fair, there's a lot of operators who probably don't have the time or resources to be able to achieve certification in the 6 month period.
Okay, just as out of interest, how does Abel Tasman Skydive compare in size to other such operators around New Zealand?
Well, we are about the 6th largest, out of 20. So I guess we're in the top 3/4. So
Stuart, has this really changed the way that you have to go about your business?
It hasn't really changed how we go about our business. What it has changed is, I guess, how we manage the business and my staffing requirements and management structure. What we do is just what we've always done. Effectively, what this process has done is it's meant that we've had to review everything, implement new programs, and write everything down. Some of the key changes are that, for example, now our tandem masters, because they're flying aircraft, they become pilots, and so they have to go through the same process as the pilots, which is medicals and recurrency training and that sort of thing. We have to have flight and duty times for our tandem masters as well as our pilots, so we can only work a certain number of hours in every day and a certain number of days a week. All of those sorts of issues have changed how we do our business a little.
Is this a case of a bit of overkill from the CAA or the government?
My personal belief is that it is a bit of overkill. I think, as I said earlier, that there is a need for certification of the aircraft, the real airplane that we fly up and down with. But for years and years and years, we've had a really, really strong industry body that has looked after what we call the descent phase, so the time you exit the aircraft to the time you land on the ground. One of the issues that we have is that the technology in parachuting and skydiving changes quite quickly, and now that that's under the civil aviation rule process, it's going to be very difficult. It's extremely difficult to change rules, and so I don't think that the rules will keep up with the change in technology.
Has this been costly for you?
It has been really expensive,
Right.
but as I say, it's just something that we had to do. I made a conscious decision that we were going to embrace it and get through it and be able to keep working and keep my 16 guys with a job.
Are there going to be operators around the country that go out of business because of this?
Yeah, absolutely. There already have been. There's 2 or 3 that have already indicated that they're not even going to go through the process. I believe that you couldn't be much less volume than what I'm doing and actually it be worthwhile.
All right. So you've run with this position and grabbed a position in a sense. You may be one of lesser number of operators around the country in the future.
I think that's for sure. I think that there will be 6 to 8 out of the 20 that will continue to operate on an ongoing basis, and in some ways that's an advantage to me, absolutely. But in other ways it's sad to see the whole thing change. We're not only about tandem skydiving, we're about sports skydiving and teaching people to skydive as well, and that because of if there's more limited sort of drop zones around the country, that'll be harder for people to get to. So I think that's a downside to it. But certainly from a purely strictly commercial point of view, if there's only 6 of us around with the same size market, we'll get a bigger market share.
Is it true that New Zealand's a skydiving destination for Europeans? They come out here because they can do it cheaper?
Absolutely. It's not only that they can do it cheaper, but it's recognised as the skydiving capital of the world, really. That really came about from the early 90s when I started here in Nelson. When tandem skydiving came about, because we lived in a fairly unregulated environment, it grew very quickly, and it very quickly became equal or as big as bungee jumping in terms of the tourism activities, and it's certainly one of the things on the bucket list for the younger tourists that come to the country.
All right. And for those watching this right now, give us a rundown of the experience at a Skydive Abel Tasman.
Oh well, I started in 1991, the company. We've done something like about 17,000 tandem jumps in the period that we've been going. My tandem masters are all highly experienced guys. I've been on the board of the Industry Association for many years, been involved at CAA level and industry level in various positions. So yeah, it's just, I know about the skydiving business.
Stuart Bean, congratulations on doing what you've done by being proactive, grabbing this position and being one of the operators that are obviously going to be leading the way around the country. Thanks for talking to us at Mainland Television.
No worries, thanks Phil, thanks for having me.